And because she's cool as hell, she's like, let's go. So we jumped in the car, went out there, completely no thought, no friends, no backup, no recovery gear, stock.
What's up, guys? So today I had the pleasure of waking up and immediately getting on a Zoom call with Ryan, the owner of Lifted Mick, which is a 2019 Subaru Outback. It's the touring trim, and he's got it lifted 3 inches. And we just were able to kind of sit down, hang out, talk a little bit about Subarus, talk about life, and just kind of the process that he went through from purchasing the car and then modifying it, deciding how to modify it, and that type of thing. So I hope that this not only is enjoyable to listen to, but I hope that it helps people who may be in a similar situation of deciding how they want to mod their car, how they might want to lift it, and just some of the things to consider and look out for. For me, this was really insightful. I really enjoyed getting to know Ryan, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did.
Appreciate you reaching out to me, man. Like it was, I certainly didn't expect to be getting this kind of attention on this fast, you know?
Well, how long have you had that car?
I bought it when it was about 1.5 years old, mid 2020, approaching 21. It's a 2019. I bought it about 1.5 years old with 35,000 miles on it, bone stock.
That's what's up.
It's a 3.6R touring, so when I say stock, I mean stock the way it came, you know. But yeah, had I known what I was going to do, I probably wouldn't have bought a touring model. You know, I would have saved some money on the base model and all those bells and whistles that I'm going to end up undoing. So
yeah. Well, I noticed that when I was looking at the photos, because I actually worked for Subaru for a real short period of time. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, is this dude running around in a touring trim, ripping around in this thing?
Yes.
So
totally intentional.
Man, because I remember when I was selling those were like a good $45,000, $50,000 car, depending on the final, final options. But dude, they're comfortable, and that interior that you got is money.
I love it, bro. Like that was the thing is, when we bought that car, I was not shopping for a new expensive car. I was looking to replace my Lancer I just sold with something with less miles, or an Outback, something with less miles, around 70 to 100,000 miles, $10,000-$15,000. Well, being new to the Subaru community, I had no idea how hard it was to find a used Subaru. People don't like. And that's how I ended up with the Lancer, because when I was shopping for the Lancer, I was looking for a Lancer or a WRX. There was no WRXs in that $3,000 to $5,000 range. I could not find them. Plenty of Lancers. So when I went shopping for the Subaru, there was nothing but newer Subarus, man. And when I saw that, it was everything I wanted in a vehicle, either or, except for the 5-6-speed manual. That was the only thing I did not like about the vehicle, obviously the CVT. But, I'm a manual guy, I always have been. So to get that, it was just perfect, man. Me and the wife saw it, and there was even a moment in the dealership where I looked the salesman and the GM dead in the face. I said, we are not leaving with this car today. Not happening. 20 minutes. And people don't understand that just because you can afford the payment doesn't mean you should buy the car.
Exactly.
Come to a brand new car. It's just the moment you drive it off the lot, as with anything, but especially brand new, you just lost $5-10 grand. The second you drive a brand new car off the lot.
Yeah, and I only asked that because you'd already mentioned the Dave Ramsey thing, and I was like, whoa, like, I wonder if this dude just rolled in there and was like, let me just get this thing.
I wish, brother.
Same. Well, what I was going to ask about that is, did that kind of modify the way that you looked at upgrading the car and anything like that, or were you just kind of like, I'm going to do whatever I want to this thing anyways?
No, the kind of evolution of deciding to mod the car was a necessity of getting stuck twice.
Oh no. Okay. So before we get any further, we got to hear about that. Let me just hear that.
Like I said, I bought the car. One of the reasons why I wanted an Outback is I've been a huge fan of the Outback forever, going back to childhood. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big hiker, man, and I couldn't get to some of these trailheads with my Lancer, you know? So I just wanted something more off-road capable. Outback's perfect, you know? I went down the rabbit hole on YouTube one day, and first it was a new Outback versus Bronco, which the Outback stomped all over it. And then I went further down with these really modded Outbacks, and I showed the wife, I'm like, look at these things, look what they're doing. And because she's cool as hell, she's like, let's go. So we jumped in the car, went out there, completely no thought, no friends, no backup, no recovery gear, stock tires that probably needed to be replaced about then. And, you know, we didn't have too many problems, but got stuck in just a little puddle of mud, you know, and the first time we really didn't get stuck, but, you know, anybody with a Subaru knows that the bumper comes off.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what happened the first time. It wasn't catastrophic, but the second time we actually got stuck. And it was probably the most frustrating, ridiculous version of stuck I've ever seen because I had one tire in the mud. And it was literally one tire sunk about 6 inches in the mud, but it was just the way the ground was positioned. So it bottomed out the car just enough. And it was just all bad, bro. So there I am stuck. Mind you, it's Christmas Eve.
No.
The sun is going down. So everybody I call is on their way to family's house. Like, I'm just kind of effed. Fortunately, there was somebody out there tooling around doing the same thing that just happened to come along. And all it took was a little bit of a push, but that got me out. And I did not go off-road again. I told the wife, we ain't going off-road again until I get tires and a lift on this thing. It's just not happening. And that's kind of when the journey and the research started. And it evolved immensely from, you know, just give me a little more clearance to then I saw the suspension. You know, I reached out to probably at least half a dozen lift shops because I've never lifted anything of any sort, especially a Subaru. And everybody was like, no, we don't lift Subarus. We don't want your business. Like, we don't want nothing to do with lifting a Subaru. So then I finally got around to calling SubiWorks here in Tempe, Arizona.
Yes.
And, extremely knowledgeable, knew everything I needed to do, but I'm not throwing shade at him. Great people, and that's where I'll probably take my car from time to time. But he would not lift my car more than 2 inches. You know, I originally wanted a 4 to 6 inch lift because I knew nothing. You know, all I know is Toyotas and Chevys are lifted to the sky. How hard can it be to lift a Subaru 4 to 6 inches?
Yeah.
As it turns out, you know. So then I inadvertently ended up coming into contact with Chris in Murrieta, California at that SubiWorks. And that was on accident. I just Googled SubiWorks and accidentally called that SubiWorks instead of the one in Tempe. And then he's like, yeah, we can do that, blah, blah, blah. We went back and forth. And he's the one who kind of really facilitated this build because he dove in, he looked into how we could make lift that big happen. And he came back to me with a whole list, 2-inch spacers, the 3-inch GR Plus flat-out suspension lift, and, you know, everything that would need to go into that. And then I called SubiWorks in Tempe back, and I'm like, yo, Chris says this can all be done. Like, what's going on? It's like, well, that's not my shop. That's when I realized I was talking to a guy in a completely other state. I thought I was talking to somebody there else in his shop, you know? And
yeah.
So because of that, I ended up having to take it all the way to California, you know? But Chris couldn't have been any better, you know? And it was well worth it, you know, the way he set it up and his knowledge. And even I've even sent people to him then, and they've gotten back to me and thanked me for him just being so knowledgeable and so helpful on just knowing Subarus and every aspect.
Yeah.
And being willing to do what other places won't. I was honestly shocked, man. Like, it's not like I'm rolling in dough. By no means. We had just refinanced the house. So I had some cash, you know, and that's, we had a budget. I set a budget, and I'm standing there in Tempe. I'm like, dude, I got a little pile of cash and I want to give it to you. You don't want it? It's just like, I'm dumbfounded, you know? It's just, and I can respect that he had not lifted one over 2 inches and he didn't want to deal with any of the problems or ramifications that may have come from doing that, you know, and I can respect that. But as the person paying for the build, I now had to pay to drive all the way to California and do all of that stuff, you know? So it was city, but me and my wife turned it into like a little mini vacation. We had a lot of fun with it. And I got to hang out at the shop with Chris, and, you know, I cut my bumper off myself while we were there. And once again, they even facilitated that because they saw me pull this big ass grinder with a cutting wheel on it, you know? That's what I had, you know? So
Yeah.
that's what I used. And the dude stopped me. I forget his name, but he was Chris's helper. He's like, hey, man, I got something way better for that. You want to use it? And it was like a little Dremel. And it was basically like a mini Sawzall with a blade about this big.
Oh, no kidding.
It was perfect, man. And it was, you know, a little, I think it was an air tool, but just 5 minutes, man. Smooth, clean, perfect. And it came out great. You know, cutting the bumper, you know, that was done with great hesitation.
That was going to be a question that I was going to ask you, was about chopping the bumper and how that felt. So it sounds like you just answered the question.
Well, it was scary, man. Like, I seen several people that kind of inspired me on, you know, various Lift the Subaru sites. And once I saw that it looks good, okay, like it will look good. I was like, I can do it. And now it's a matter of, can I do it without messing it up? You know, like.
Well, it's on your car, you got such a rare paint code, and that's like $1,000 decision right there. If you wanted to replace it to stock, that's $1,000 roughly. Right. That at that time, things brand new, essentially. Like, good luck finding one you pull it.
And mind you, I considered going to a junkyard and maybe seeing if I could find one off a wrecked car that wasn't damaged and pulling it off and practicing. You know, or even, you know, doing it on that one and then having it painted. But then I got to deal with the expense of getting it paint matched and all that. I figure my luck, if I practice on one, I'll probably get it perfect and then mess it up when I do it on the real one, you know? So it's like, you know what, I'm just going to take my time. I set out my line real good with my tape and my pen and my mark. And I just took my time and crossed my fingers and hoped for the best. And it actually came out really, really well. I was quite happy about it.
Dude, it looks super, super good. If you'd have told me that was your first bumper cut, I would have been very surprised before, you know, after having looked at the photos. That's awesome.
You go way back on my Instagram, you can actually see, because I documented all of that stuff at the shop. There's a ton of pictures. I pulled my grill off and painted it. And that's another thing that they were super cool about. You know what I mean? Shops have serious liability and insurance issues, so they don't let people come into the shop and work, you know? And I get that.
Yeah.
But he allowed me to take my bumper outside, cut it in his parking lot. He allowed me to paint my grill in his parking lot. And he did allow me to come into his shop and show me what was going on. And you know, after he put the lift kit on, because that was the first thing out the gate, just in case we had any problems and parts had to be ordered, was he lifted it and he came in and he showed me my axles, because I did the 2-inch subframe drop in the rear, the custom half-inch drop in the front. And he looked at my axles. He's like, dude, I don't think we need to do the subframe drop in the front. Like, I think your axles are fine. And I was just, I spent months doing research, and I think I joined like 6 or 7 different Subaru groups. I just kept hearing axles. People were replacing axles, replacing boots. So I was like, we're here. I've already bought the parts. Put it in half-inch subframe drop, you know? And I've only probably got about 10,000 miles on it, 12,000 miles since the lift, and no axle issues, you know? Let's keep it that way. And, but even Eric from Mountain View, Arizona, a bearded pixel, he was looking at my axles. He was like, whoa, bro. He's like, your axles look great. I was like, yeah, man, like, it's really only 1 more inch, you know, but with the half-inch subframe drop, it levels it quite decent. That was actually why I opted for that. It's that adjustable GR Plus suspension, was so that it is the wife's daily driver, technically. I wanted to be able to lower it for daily driving. You know, I didn't expect to be going out off-road as much as I have since I got it. So much fun. Why not? You know, but the plan was to obviously not, when I say lower it, people think dropped. No, I mean lowered from 3-inch lift, you know? So like I initially tried to drop it like 1.5 inches in the front and 1 inch in the back. So it'd be sitting a little leaning forward. But I ran into issues without having the right adjustable end lengths. You know, that was really the only problems that I ran into. But as I said, at this point, I'm not even worried about lowering it. Unless I run into axle issues in the future, then I might lower it for the daily and lift it for the playtime. But it looks so good, I don't even want to lower it, you know.
Well, that's that actually leads me to a couple questions that I had. The first being, so I saw that you've got the Flatout Suspension Coilovers. So I wanted to ask a little bit about kind of how you guys, you kind of mentioned some of the subframe spacers and stuff like that. But I did want to ask about your lift kit setup. And then I wanted to ask about your daily drivability. Like, it sounds like the thing handles pretty well as it is.
It handles surprisingly well after everything I've done. I've had it over 100 on the freeway. You wouldn't notice that I've lifted it 3 inch and put 30-inch tires on a Subaru. You know, like,
yeah.
I mean, you hear the KO2s. You know, you do get some more road noise. You know, but it handles quite well. But as far as the lift goes, man, it was. I went with the GR Plus because that could get me the 3 inches of lift. You know, the GR Lite was only 2. You know, and from all the research I did, depending obviously on how far you want to go and how much money you want to spend, but on average, you're going to spend about $1,000 for every inch of lift you want.
Yeah.
You know, and it don't matter whether it's a Subaru, Toyota, Chevy. For a standard lift, you're $1,000 per inch. You know, and obviously you can go super cheap, super budget, super expensive, super $10,000 suspension if you want. But this, for what I was looking to do, was perfect given the adjustability, which we already talked about, not really an issue anymore. But going forward with the build, I've built it. Every step I've taken is for what the car is going to be, not what the car is. I started with an overlanding build in mind. This isn't just to go wrong. This is to, eventually I want to travel the whole country in this car on dirt roads and seeing only things that dirt road people see, you know, because everybody sees the postcards. I want to make the postcards, you know?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of the reasons I love hiking, man. I get to see things on hiking trails that nobody else gets to see except for the people that come out there and put in the work.
Bro, let me take a quick little rabbit trail here. Anytime people ask me about, they're always like, how did you get into this? Like, this is the dumbest thing ever. What are you doing? It's the exact same thing. So I grew up, you know, in the Pacific Northwest, like I-84 in the Columbia River Gorge. That's like my playground, the Washington and Oregon side. And bro, I got to this point where I'd seen everything that was like documented. We got so stupid. I was literally looking at old like USGS maps from, you know, like the 30s or whatever, where some of those dudes would like mark stuff and say, oh, you know, there's some kind of a feature here on this creek. We would take machetes into the woods and cut into the woods using a compass, get into a creek, and then see if we could find a waterfall, bro. It was like the sketchiest stuff ever. And that's exactly what happened to me. The same thing that you mentioned, of being like, well, I need something that can get me here. And I had a Subaru from snowboarding all those years, and was like, well, I'll just lift this. But this was in like 2012 or 2013, maybe. Nobody had really done it. And people would clown on you if you lifted a Subaru. I got clowned on for sure, but I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. So I put Forester suspension in it. But yeah, same thing of just being able to go places and look at stuff and be like, there's maybe 5 other human beings that have seen this, you know?
Exactly, man. It's worth it, man. It's just so cool. And like I said, that's why I went with the GR Plus with the adjustability. And then I had it built for what do they call it? Overload suspension, basically. You know, I had it rated with a higher spring rate, so that way when I do get all that weight on there, it's not going to sag. I can't stress enough that I spent months and months in numerous Subaru groups just listening to everybody's problems and issues and problems with sag. Every issue that every Subaru owner ever had, I listened to and I tried to learn from. And I tried to spend the money now so I don't have to spend more money later trying to fix what I should have done in the first place.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I'm hoping that people that see this, they will save them some time and money. Give them some realistic expectations, because I think that's the hard part, is coming into this. Like you said, you've lifted other stuff, and I also own like a Jeep XJ. I own like 3 cars, but it's completely different. The stuff that you can do with a Subaru is not the same.
Well, no, I've never lifted anything, but through my research was when I learned that Subarus are not the same. And it is because I mean, you call shops that just do nothing but lift kits all day long, and they lift things to the freaking sky. So you call them and ask them for a 3-inch lift, and they're like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
What you talking about, dude? Like I see, it's lifted 17 inches, 57 tires. I know you had to do some fabrication, but what you can't do. Yeah, I mean, I've seen 72 station wagons turned into monster trucks.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I say, just like with building race cars, it's really everything is limited to your budget. You know, if you got $100 grand, yeah, you can lift anything. You know.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So you've got the coilovers. How much or how much lift? What's the maximum amount of lift that those allow for?
I haven't actually measured, but if I remember correctly, it was like 8 or 10 inches of travel in the rear, or like 6 to 8 inches of travels in the front, if I'm remembering correctly. Deleting my sway bars, huge difference.
Yeah.
You know, I was really stubborn about that because I had some initial issues when I wanted to lower it. I had to reach out to Flatout. I got to give Flatout. Give me a moment to give Flatout some major props, man. The best customer service I've ever received. Like performance and everything, fantastic. But I'm gonna set that aside for a moment. The best customer service I've ever received. Like I said, I drove all the way to California to get it lifted, and then getting it back, I couldn't lower it. It needed adjustable end links. It needed shorter end links so I could lower the end link mounts on the suspension. Otherwise, the rings were just bumped up against the end link mounts. I ordered them from Rallitek. They were at their shortest. They were the same length as my stock ones. So I had to send them back. I reached out to Flatout on a Saturday morning, mind you. Within 2 hours, they got back to me, brother. Okay. What? On a Saturday freaking morning. And
that's metal.
Just get back to me. Like I told them, hey, this is the issue. This is what I just went through. Ordered too short, blah, blah, blah. This is the length that I have. I need something, you know, so-and-so short. And they went into their shop, got some adjustable end link, a measuring tape, measured it, took a picture. Will this work? Like, bro, on a Saturday morning, you know what I mean? So I went out there with my measuring tape, just checked. I'm like, that is perfect. That is exactly what I need. They sent them to me free of charge.
What?
Free of charge. Adjustable.
Dude.
Just sent them to me free of charge. You know what I mean? So I get those. I put them on. They look dope as hell. You know, they match the suspension. They're blue and shit. You know, they look really good. You know, so now I don't want to delete my sway bars because they have this really cool attachment. Those are the suspension. But anyways, then when I actually do try to lower it, I realized that when you lower the rings, it after about a 1/4 inch, it will actually allow the spring to float. Spring will actually separate from the top hat, and it will allow it to float. Obviously, it's not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Again, on a weekend, I reach out to Flatout. They get right back to me. On a weekend. and they're like, oh, yeah, we see that problem. We know exactly what you need. You need helper springs and couplers. And, of course, me and my ignorance, I'm like, no, I'm arguing with the suspension people about what my suspension needs because I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? And finally, he's like, just trust me. Sends me a YouTube video. Just trust me. This is what you need. Again, sends them to me free of charge. Dude,
that's pretty.
Send them to me. As I said, fast forward a little bit, the car was lifted in California. I paid a professional to do that. I have to uninstall and take it apart to put that shit on it. So needless to say, the helper springs and couplers are not on the suspension. That's why it hasn't been lowered. And like I said, I probably won't unless I run into axle issues. But Flatout's customer service, bro, like never in my life have I had somebody get back to me the same day, let alone on a Saturday.
That's
like,
sick.
You know, and then to send me what I need, to go through the extra effort of actually going and looking and verifying this is what you need and this will work, sending it to me free of charge. You know, that's it, bro. Like my only complaint is the suspension didn't come with the helper springs. But I honestly, I don't know, but I think my Outback was one of the first ones, I don't know, to get the suspension. And I'm just guessing. I don't know. The only reason I say that is because soon after that, all of their suspension that I see come out, it has the helper springs and couplers on it.
Okay. Okay.
So I think, I was one of the early ones, and then they realized, oh shoot, like in order for this to actually be adjustable, they have to have these components. So now it's just part of the suspension. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to Flatout about it, but
Okay.
as far as I can tell, a lot of people don't really mess with their adjustable suspension, except for like the race car guys.
Yeah. Yeah. They really dial it in.
Yeah, they really tune their stuff.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to that, like if I have to lower it a little bit, maybe to get more flex at some point, I might do that. But the reality is with those tires, I'm maxed out on flex in the rear. You've probably seen the picture where it's just,
Yeah.
and you stick your finger. You can't put your finger in there. There's no rubbing, but you
Yeah.
can. And if I get any more flex, I'm gonna have to do some more cutting because I already had to cut a hole in my wheel well liners in the back,
Mhm.
and the other issue I need to get buttoned up because where I cut the holes, I had to do a little hammering on the pinch weld, and of course that exposed bare metal, and now that bare metal is starting to rust. So I need to get that issue dealt with. But it's all a matter like I'm trying to do everything all at once, so I don't have to keep taking my tires off and messing with my wheel well liners because my wife bought me lights for the wheel wells for Christmas.
Oh, yes.
And but like I said, I want to get those holes plugged up. I want to get the metal covered back up and that rust dealt with, and I want to get the suspension flex dialed. And I want to do all at once. It's probably not going to happen all at once because I really do. I was just thinking about it. I really do need to prioritize getting that rust dealt with in my wheel wells. I initially put some spray paint on it, but I did it kind of lazy, just one quick lazy coat, threw the wheels back on and rolled with it. Of course, then when I came back and looked, it had flung rocks up and stuff and chipped the paint off. And, so I might actually get some like bed liner or something sprayed on there. And I might honestly, the only reason I really even want to seal up the holes is because I haven't gone mudding since the first and only time I went mudding, because I literally took a day and a half and half my car apart to get all the mud out of that thing because of those holes. Okay, so imagine cutting a hole right behind your back tire.
Yeah.
That's where all the mud goes, man.
Dude.
It filled my entire back bumper space with mud. And I mean, filled it. The next morning when I took the kids to school, I hit the gas and I could tell I probably had 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds of mud stuffed up under my car, in my bumper. And when I say I took it apart, I mean, I put it up on jack stands. I pulled all my wheels and tires off. I pulled my trim off, and I spent a day and a half out in front of my house cleaning hundreds of pounds of mud off my car. I had to go buy another 100-foot of hose to wash all the mud down to the drain so it's not all piled up in front of my neighbor's house.
Dude, I've done the same thing, man. I've had to get up under the car and just pressure wash it out.
It was nuts, man. It was just like, I'm definitely gonna rethink mudding next time. Is this worth it?
Yeah.
It was fun, but I did not get to have as much fun for nearly as long as the amount of time that I spent cleaning my car.
Yeah.
I was looking over your list of questions. I was just like, man, I hope I don't blank out,
No, man, you're good. No, dude, so like I said, this is the first time I've ever sat down and actually chopped it up with somebody for one of these. And so I was like, oh man, I'm probably going to sound like an idiot or not have anything good to ask, but this is going perfectly.
It seems like you've been doing this for a long time, man. It seems like natural, you know what I mean?
Oh, thanks. Well, I like talking to people about stuff, so that's what's up. Well, let me ask. Okay, so let's see. So you've got your flat out suspension coilovers. You've got those at 3 inches currently, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what other? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, I can just get a lift kit and that's it. Can you give me and tell people like what is? So you've got your coilovers, but what supporting mods needed to go into this to make that happen?
The Rallitek 2-inch subframe drop in the rear was a must. It's one of those things, if you want to go budget and try it without, feel free. But no, eventually you're going to replace your axles and then you're going to end up buying them anyways.
Exactly. Can you?
Go ahead.
So a lot of people that are going to listen to this or going to read that article, they're going to not have any concept in their mind of why they would need to drop the subframe.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit about, why that's a necessary thing on a Subaru?
Absolutely, but first, just let me say I didn't know anything about any of this stuff
You
until I
do.
started to build. I learned so much about lifting stuff because you see professionals do stuff, and it's just like a trick on a skateboard. It looks easy, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, your axle angle is very important, and all the research I did was people just kept going through axles. So, like I was saying, you're either going to spend the money to drop your subframe now. Now I remember where I was going. Great thing for editing.
We don't even need to edit this. This is good.
The what I learned about axles and diffs and all that stuff was leveling. When you lift your car, your axles do this. You change the angles of your differential, and even if you're driving a four-wheel drive truck, when you jack up the truck, your drivetrain does this.
Exactly.
With the axle here, or it changes the angle of your shaft. Which puts more strength on your axles, your drive shaft, all of that.
U joints.
Yeah. So when you drop the subframe, you lower your diff, you lower, with obviously your differential, you lower your engine, your transmission, your axles. It reduces the angle of your axles, and it's just so important because that reduces the strain on your axles, reduces the strain on your boots, reduces the strain on your diff joints and your U joints. It's just when you lift something, especially if you're not a pavement princess and you're not just doing it for looks, if you're going to go out there and beat up on it, you're going to break it.
Yeah.
It's a reality. So I can't stress enough, spend the money now so you don't have to spend more later, because that's what it will be. It's not I'm going to spend this now or I'm going to spend this later. If you don't spend this now, you will spend this plus more later.
Exactly. I can't stress enough how many times, because I get on the Facebook group occasionally, and people will be like, "Oh, should I buy this lift kit?" And I'm like, "Just, bro, what's $200? Like, what's $200 extra? To buy it from somebody that's going to give you your trailing arm spacers. They're going to give you something that already come with the bolts. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to buy high quality bolts at the hardware store, but those add up. Like,
right.
People just
find the right stuff. Sometimes trying to get the right size, the right thread. I mean, it's not easy. Even modding a Subaru, there's not a lot of places that make stuff for Subarus. The reason I don't have a bumper, it's freaking $2,000 to get a bumper.
Yeah.
Toyota, I could go get an off-road bumper for like $500 to $700.
Okay. So you talked about earlier having a pile of cash to just give people to lift your car. I ran into that same issue trying to get a bumper for my Forester because I chopped my bumper cover and then wanted a tube bumper up there. And dude, I literally called all these fab shops and I was like, "Hey, here's money. I have it. I will pay you in advance. Just please build me a bumper." They were like, "Oh, we'll get back to you." Or just literally like 8 different people, even people that were personally recommended. I was like, "Hey, I know so and so. Can I please give you money?" But they were probably like, "Oh, this is just a soy boy with a Subaru." Like it's rough.
We get no respect. We get no respect in the Subaru community. That's for sure. We're the Rodney Dangerfield of the car community.
It's rough out here for a player, man.
It is. But I tell you what, man. Like when I bought this, I didn't even know off-road Subarus were a thing. And then like in the middle of this build, my buddy sent me this Instagram reel of a 4x4 Subi. And his literal words were, "Bro, I didn't know this was a thing." And I was like, "Neither did I." I said, "But I literally follow that. Me and that guy literally follow each other on Instagram." Yeah.
Sick. I love that, man. Let me ask. Okay, so we got coilovers, we got the subframe spacers. Was there anything else that you were surprised by that you needed in order to make the lift happen? Was it essentially just those 2 things, or what else?
I was honestly surprised we didn't run into problems.
Okay, so it was a little bit smoother than you thought.
Subi works in Tempe, wouldn't lift it for more than 3 inches for fear of problems. Subi works, Chris in Murrieta, California. We scheduled it on a Thursday, Friday, and he's not open Saturday, but he left Saturday open in case we ran into issues. That's why first thing we did was lift the car. If we ran into any issues, he could order parts, try to remedy the problems. Parts would hopefully be there for Friday. Saturday, we could get it on the car and hopefully leave, but he had the lift kit on there in a couple hours, bro.
Sick. Okay.
Like it was butter, dude. Just he called me, yeah, lift kit's on, no problem. And I was like, what? Like I ain't even finished breakfast yet. Like
it's not even checkout time.
Yeah, I was like, what, are you kidding me? It's like, so we went back up there and checked it out, and that's when he showed me where the axles were and asked me if I wanted, and that was another thing I appreciated was, he didn't just say, oh, this guy showed up with money and I'm going to spend every dime of it. He's like, hey, I don't even think we might not even need these parts. I might not even need to charge you for this stuff. Are you sure you want to do it? Yeah. So I really, the lack of issues thus far, I was pleasantly surprised by, because obviously being a married man, you got to have the wife's permission to do stuff like this. This is our car. This is her driver. This is what she takes the kids to and from school every day and carpools with, So if I did this to our nice new car and it caused a lot of problems, you better believe she's never going to let me do this to anything ever again.
Well, I was going to say, your wife seems pretty down, dude. She seems super cool.
She's pretty awesome, man. There's none better. That's why she's my wife.
Yeah.
Why I picked her.
Man, they say one of the biggest deciding factors on what somebody's success is going to look like is the wife they choose.
Absolutely. We made quite a team, man. We came into this partnership kind of not with nothing, but definitely working for the little that we had and being able to come together and join forces and really, focus, going back to the Dave Ramsey thing, like we didn't fall and trip into buying a home. That took a couple of years of not spending money, of not eating out, of just saving money, getting her credit in a position, because one of our credits had to be good enough, so we fixed it first. And it didn't just happen, man. It took a lot of sacrifices, a lot of determination and focus. It's like we set a goal and we're gonna reach that goal. And if we had went out and bought the Subaru, we wouldn't have the house.
Yeah.
We have the Subaru because we bought the house. I was able to do the Subaru because we bought the house. So I can't stress people enough. Don't go out and buy new ass cars.
Yeah.
You have a house, at least. Actually, I was in a car accident years ago. People texting and driving, don't.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Driving rear-end me full speed. And I didn't realize the gravity and the effects that it would have in my life years later.
Yeah.
But, it was a life-changing car accident. A lot of people think that, oh, you get in a bad car accident, you get paid. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'll tell you, from somebody who's been in a few car accidents, most people only carry 30-15 insurance, which means $15,000, $30,000 coverage. If they're alone, or if you're alone in your car, you're only going to get $15,000 max. If there's more than one person in your car, you're only going to get $30,000 max. Yeah. Unless they have a home or some sort of asset you can sue them for, which a lot of people don't, most people don't, you ain't going to get nothing. I walked away from a life-changing car accident with $500, because more than a third went to the medical, more than a third went to the lawyer, and then the courts took the rest. So it's just like, even if I had got the third, it would have never, that doesn't even cover chiropractic care for very long, let alone everything else, Did
you got back issues from it?
Yeah, I got a bunch of herniated discs and 2 blown out discs in my back, and it's just I do physical therapy and I try to work out every day, but it's a real fine line between pushing yourself hard enough to lose weight and get results, and then aggravating my situation. So I don't lift weights anymore. It's mostly all just core, and I love hiking. And it's really put a dent in my hiking. 3 years ago, I bought most of the stuff for backpacking. I bought my backpack and my sleeping bag and my sleeping pad. And if you've ever bought that stuff for backpacking, it's expensive.
It is.
All that shit's still sitting in the closet yet to be used, bro. And it's just, I hate it, man, because I want to go backpacking so bad. But the reality is I don't even know if my back will take it. But that's why I do the physical therapy, because I'm determined to do it. I'm not.
Well, I fractured my spine as a kid, and so I feel your pain, man. And I didn't know about it until I was in my late teens. you know, they asked me, I went in for a separate issue and they were like, oh, how long ago was your car accident? And I'm kind of looking at them like, I've never been in a car accident. They're like, well, what the hell happened to you? I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe that's why I feel like crap every day. So I get it. Just on that topic though, real quick, how comfortable is your Outback? Like just in general and then on the trails?
It is super comfortable. Like it's I have to go because of my back, I have to go the extra mile. Like literally right now I'm sitting on a pad that has a little horseshoe cut out of the back on my spine, you know, so there's no pressure on my actual lower back. So I have like extra padding and a lumbar thing and a heated massaging pad that I sit on. Like so it's ridiculous. But besides that, it's super comfortable, bro. I got the leather interior, heated seats, air conditioning in the back. Like it's the nicest car I've ever had by far. You know, it's super nice, legit, and it's great for road trips. We drove all the way to Galveston, Texas in it, and that was right before the lift went on. I really, really wanted the lift to happen, and he had the opening the week before. But I was like, if we have any problems, this can't ruin the trip to Galveston. That's paid for already. Like, I just had to kind of bite the bullet and say, all right, I guess we have to wait for the lift until after, you know. But it worked. But I didn't have to deal with all the extra gas mileage and stuff. But honestly, the gas mileage wasn't really affected by the lift kit. A lot of people think it does. It affected the aerodynamics a little bit. The cutting of the bumper affected the aerodynamics way more, and the tires murdered my gas mileage. You know, so keep that in consideration if you want to go with 30-inch tires on an Outback.
Let me ask you this. So two questions. What kind of wheels and tires do you have on it right now?
I got the black Rhino Warlords. I got the kind with the gold trim. If you actually look back, you might have noticed early on I had different wheels. They were the same wheels, black Rhino Warlords, but when they showed up, they were a full black. The ones that I have now, I have that gold bronze trim around the outside. That's what was supposed to show up. The wrong ones showed up because those rims were on 4-month back order. And I think what Black Rhino did is just kind of send him what we have and hope he's happy. When you're spending, I mean, anybody who's bought wheels knows what wheels cost, you know, especially on a Subaru where you have to buy a full-size spare. I had to buy 5 wheels and tires, you know. So when I'm spending that much money, you damn right.
Send me the right.
What shows up, you know. But then let me give Discount a huge props here too, because Discount was so cool. Most everything I've done, I've timed very well to where I'm not replacing parts and throwing good parts away. Tires needed to be replaced when I got wheels and tires, you know. But since the wrong wheels showed up, I was kind of effed because I have factory 18-inch wheels, and one of the only reason I bought new wheels was so I could get 17-inch wheels and put BFGs on them. You know, that was the only reason. I was perfectly happy with the factory ones, but when they showed up and being the wrong ones, finding out that then we found out that it was a 4-month back. Well, actually, then they said it was a 3-month back order, but it ended up taking 4 months. I looked at the guy at Discount. I was like, bro, I can't roll on these tires for 3 months. Like, it's fine. Like, and I'm not buying another set of tires for 3 months. Like, and he did his little thing on his computer, and he just kind of looked at me and goes, you know what, man? He's like, just take the wheels. We'll call you when your wheels show up. And I'm just like, whoa, bro. Said, I'm not being responsible for these wheels. Like, I've waited 3 or 4 months with this lift kit on to go off-road for these wheels and tires. I'm not waiting another 3 or 4 months with these wheels to go off-road. Like, I'm not going to be responsible if anything happens to them. He's like, don't even worry about it, man. Just go out, do your thing, and we'll call you when your wheels get here. You know, so when they finally did 4 months later call me, one of the wheels did get scratched from a rock or something off-roading. And so I was a little worried that they were going to be like, hey, you got to pay for one of these wheels. They didn't say nothing, bro. Only did they roll with, you know, those wheels for 4 months, which means they're never going to sell those as brand new wheels again, you know? They could not have done me any more right, you know? So they called me 4 months later. I get those wheels put on. They didn't say a word. They almost gave them back to me. Like, one of the guys comes to me and says, what do you want me to do with these old wheels? Just want me to throw them in the back? I'm like, bro, those are your wheels. If you want to give them to me, I'll be more than happy to take them. I'm going to sell them, but those are your wheels, you know? But the fact that they allowed me to roll on wheels for 4 months, knowing that they were not going to be able to sell them, I've never bought my tires anywhere else, and I never will, man. I tell you what.
I gotta say, I've had the same experience with them. I've, like I said, I also have a Jeep, and out here we have a lot of spots that have some pretty sharp, like rock pits.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up sent a rock through the sidewall of one of my tires on the Jeep. I packed the sidewall full of tire plugs and inflated it back up, made it home, and I called Discount Tire and was like, "Yo, I need a new tire." They overnighted me a new one, bro. Like, I was like, "What?"
Yep. Customer service, man. I tell you, it's lost on a lot of places these days, but I wish a lot of more businesses understood that in the end, customer service will make you a successful company. Obviously not on its own. You've got to have other aspects. Mm-hmm. But if you really take care of your customers, they're going to come back. They're always going to come back, and they're going to bring people with them. I will be going back to Flatout, and I know for a fact I've brought people to Flatout. I had one guy hit me up from Tucson. He wanted to just come up here because he was going to be in Phoenix, and he's like, "Dude, can I just go ride around with you for a little while? I want to see how that Flatout suspension performs. I have Ironman, and I'm thinking about switching." We ended up not getting our schedules lined up, but just the fact that people are like, "Yo, let me ride around. I want to see how it performs." Like, I'll do as much as I can to sell Flatout suspension the way they did me and the way they took care of me in my vehicle.
Yeah. Well, okay, let me ask you this. How does the car do off-road? I mean, I've seen the photos, but can you tell people a little bit of like how gangster that thing is?
It's freaking great, man. It's taking the sway bars off was a game changer, because of my ignorance. I didn't realize how much that limited, so I was kind of surprised how much I would get wheel spin and why aren't my tires touching the ground? I paid all this money for increased articulation, not understanding that the sway bars are literally preventing that. So once I took those off, big time game changer in comfort, in ride quality, especially off road. There was if you turn really hard, if you get really dramatic, you can feel a little more roll, but it's nothing crazy. I get on the freeway, I feel safe. The wife didn't even notice a difference of me taking the sway bars off. Recently I finally got to air down for the first time. Night and day.
Game changer.
Holy crap, because those BFGs, those are solid. Those KO2s, those are solid tires, man. So fully rated off road, I'm feeling every bump and every bump. But off road with them aired down, bro. Like I feel like I could go 1,000,000 miles an hour and I don't feel nothing. It feels so good. And I honestly I can't wait to get the torque locker on there.
Yes.
Be a game changer, because the only issues I've had, on hill climbs and stuff, is just that instance where one or two tires loses traction for just a second to make you lose your. And with that torque locker on there, it will alleviate that. And I'll just screaming up everything.
Yeah. Can you? So again, I think a lot of people are new to this stuff. Can you explain the sway bar issue and kind of how that prevents wheels from coming into contact with the ground?
The sway bar connects both your wheels, and what it does is, like, when you turn and stuff, it prevents your car from rolling and leaning, but it also prevents your wheels from moving independently. And as soon as you take them off, you will go from just a little bit to way more movement. And again, if you go early on into my Instagram, not too early, but you can actually see where I did a lot of testing. I pulled the car out of the driveway and I bought ramps just for this purpose, so I could flex out the suspension with and without the sway bars. I did the front first and tested it and see how much flex. And I busted out the measuring tape and everything. Also did the rear, and then went around to this place around the corner from my house where I do some testing. I hit some corners really hard, and took video of it all just so I could see and other people could see. Because I hear a lot of people asking, is it safe? And I felt perfectly safe. In an emergency situation on the highway, probably going to get really scary if I yank that wheel one direction. But I think it's pretty much that way in anything at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, and plus you've got a different spring rate now. So you've got coilovers that have a better spring rate that's going to offset that a little bit. Plus you've got a wider track. I don't know what offset your wheels are. They're maybe like a plus 15.
They were 35. They were
okay.
And so I would have liked to get a little more poke out of them, but that model of wheel, that size, only came in the 35.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Spacers, but that was another thing that I saw a commonality in was a lot of people that had spacers were having axle issues. And I don't know if that means one is connected to the other, but it makes me very hesitant to put spacers on there.
Yeah, you do add a little more leverage to the wheel. You know, you push it out just a little bit more. Now your steering components have to work harder.
Yep.
You know, there's more leverage against the ball joints and axles and all that other stuff. So it's kind of frustrating that we can't
Right.
beef that stuff. You can a little bit, but man, they're already kind of iffy.
I'm new to the Subarus, but I don't. Subarus aren't built for this. You know what I mean? Their internal components and their suspension components, they're not built to be torqued on and to be rock crawled. You know?
Yeah.
It is what it is. You know, we do the best we can with what Subaru gives us to work with. You know, and I love the Subaru, and as much as I wish I had a rock crawler. You know, like you said, you got a Jeep, and someday I might have a Jeep. I chose the Subaru because of the room it has in the back. I have 5 dogs, and that was a big part. Like my dogs, I like to take my dogs when I go hiking and stuff. You know, so when I looked at the Ascend and the Crosstrek and the Outback was my favorite body style. But I looked at the back, and it was just a no-brainer. There's just way more room back there than any of the other models, in my opinion, for my dog. You know.
Yeah. How well does it accommodate that?
Pretty well. I got 3 little dogs and 2 big dogs. So I got like 3 Chihuahua mixes, and then I'm actually shocked they've been quiet this whole time. I got 3 Chihuahua mixes, and then I got about a 60-pound pit boxer mix, and then a 50-pound pit cow.
Dang, I don't even know what that is.
because he looks like a cow. He's black and white like a cow. He's low and wide and long like a cow. He eats like a cow.
But there's plenty of room for them to kind of kick it in the back.
Yeah. And I honestly, I need to do a better job making it more comfortable for them. You know, but everything's a process, because right now I got that full-size spare in the back, and because it's a 50-inch tire, I can't stand it up. A lot of guys, they buy the rack and they can stand it up and tie it to the side. 30-inch tire don't fit in the back of my car standing up. The only way it does is if I drop the one side of the back seat, and the tire has to be pushed up a little bit in the front seat to clear the roof.
Yeah,
it's a downfall, but that's just part of the build, man. The roof rack is the first priority, so I can get that tire on the roof, and then a full-size spare carrier in the back.
Yeah. Is that kind of what you want to do, like a hitch-mounted tire carrier?
Well, I've been going. I wanted one of those, but when I saw how freaking much they were, I was like, I'm just gonna go have somebody build me an actual off-road bumper with a hitch carrier, swing-out hitch carrier, a full overlanding setup. Because if I'm gonna spend $1,500 to $2,000, I'm gonna get the real deal. You know, I was surprised. I think it was the Wilco or whichever one it was. Almost $2,000, and it's a badass setup. You know, that's awesome the way it comes off the trail hitch. But considering what I'm gonna do, and the fact that I'm probably gonna end up at least cutting off the bottom part of the bumper, I'm just gonna spend the money on when I have it, because I don't. And full setup back there for the carrier and overlanding, because I've seen some awesome setups with the cookout tables and the way everything folds out. And like I said, that's what I've done with the build, is build it for what it's going to be, not what it is. And that's the overlanding plan. You know, I want an awning on the side and the little shower. I mean, you've probably seen the commercial with the little mini awning that's actually a shower that unfolds.
What?
Yeah, because
that's sick.
It's like that big, but it actually has bolts, so it unfolds, and it creates a curtain around you. And then, of course, obviously, you need a water setup too. But they have the little water heater setups, and if you have a water setup, you literally can just stand right next to your car, take a shower in private.
That's sick. That's Portland level, like 1,000, bro. Except for they be doing it out in the open, no curtains.
Right. And mind you, if you're dispersed camping, like the plan is, like you really don't need a curtain. But if you're out there with friends or other Subaru people, I don't think everybody wants to see. It ain't a nudist colony.
Not yet, anyways.
It ain't that kind of party, pal.
Yeah. You got to pay us for that.
Right.
Well, let me see here. Let me see. Let's do a speed round of some questions here. I actually wanted to ask you a question. Have you had any issues with the CVT off-road? Like, how does that handle everything?
Not issues, but the gear ratio is disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. Ironically, the week after I bought this car, news of the wilderness dropped. You want to talk about being pissed off?
I was gonna ask you this question. I was
being pissed off, bro. First time I go out and buy something substantially expensive, nice, not brand new, so I didn't pay $40,000 for it, but still a substantial.
yeah.
And then for them a week later to come out with exactly what I would have bought. Ooh, man, I was hot, dude. I was like, you mother, why?
Yeah.
Are you just messing with me? I considered taking it back and trading it in for the wilderness, because when I started looking about what I was gonna spend versus just getting the wilderness, like it was becoming equal very quickly. But when I looked at the CVT transmission and the fact that the wilderness only came with a turbo 4-cylinder, that made my decision real easy. I'm a big I've always had Hondas, so I've had lots of 4-cylinder VTECs, and you can soup them up, make them lots of horsepower. But if it's an option, I'm going for the V6 all day. Obviously this is an H6 motor, but same thing. More power right off the bat, and it's you might get that power with the turbo, but you don't always have it like you do with the V6.
Yeah, it's now owning something with a straight 6 in it. There's just a lot more torque, and there's not, with a turbo, you got to wait for the turbo to kind of spool up. And when you're off road, it's like, bro, I'm not even at that RPM range. Like,
and you're not gonna be unless you have a stick and you can drop the clutch.
Yeah, and then you're just burning clutch.
Right. And my mistake and my ignorance as well. I thought the V6 motor will make up for the gear. My mistake, my ignorance. No, it doesn't. But I still, a wilderness guy got really mad at me because I said mine was better than his one day. He took it really personal, and it's just like, I'm not saying that mine's more off-road capable, but my feeling with the wilderness is they didn't go far enough.
I agree.
Not nearly. I feel that they made a trim for people that wanted a trim. They didn't build a car for people that actually wanted to go off-road. They made it just a little more capable, and granted, that's where me and the wilderness guy kind of got into it, because I said right out, a low gear in my car would be a game changer. I can't deny that for a second, but I would not trade that low gear for the 4-cylinder turbo, and I wouldn't trade what I've done for what they did, because the wilderness should have come minimum 3 inches lifted with an aftermarket high travel suspension. And this is where people disagree with me. I think it should have come with a solid rear axle.
Agreed. Yes.
I didn't know any of that stuff until I learned about the off-road build. But now that I know how much limitation 4-wheel individual suspension versus a solid rear axle gives you, and how much more capable that Outback would be if it had a solid rear axle.
Yeah.
Holy, so like I said, 3-inch suspension lift, aftermarket suspension, long travel suspension. Maybe you could make a factory, or this could have been an upgraded option for the wilderness. The off-road bumper with the winch and the rear off-road bumper with the spare tire carrier, and bigger wheel wells. Because anybody who's trying to put bigger tires on an Outback, they're not made for that. And if you're going to make something off-road lifted, you need to make it so I can put bigger tires on it without cutting and chopping and hammering.
Yes. you bro, can I get a witness right now? Yeah, I'm with you, man. Let me ask you some questions real quick. I know we're like going over on your time, and
Good, bro.
Zoom wants to kick us off again in another 8 minutes anyways. Okay, let me ask you this. What's your favorite mod on the car so far?
Probably it's got to be the suspension, man. I mean, the wheels and tires are beautiful, but wheels and tires are nothing if they don't sit on the car right,
Yeah.
But probably, in my opinion, the most important mod to my car is probably the transmission cooler.
Did you do a Hayden transmission cooler?
It actually, when we first ordered it, because it was like 8 or 10 week wait for the suspension.
Mhm.
When we first ordered everything, Chris actually ordered just an oil cooler. And then Mishimoto came out with a CVT specific transmission cooler in the meantime. So he actually sent that back and ordered a Mishimoto CVT transmission cooler. And that was one of the first things that I seen when I started doing research was people putting that on a car. And I was like, absolutely, man. CVTs are expensive.
Yeah.
And the cost of a cooler versus the cost of a transmission, it's a no-brainer.
Bro, on that Jeep, dude, I'm so mean to that car. Like,
Right.
the roof is caved in, the doors are all smashed. But yeah, I bought a $60 Hayden transmission cooler because, and I'm not re-geared yet. I'm gonna take it and have it re-geared because I just bought new axles. But bro, it was boiling the ATF when I'd be on the freeway so much that it would push it up and out onto the exhaust. Bro, it was smokescreen status. But yeah, a $50 or $60 cooler, gone, no problem.
Right. Yeah, I actually want to get a temperature gauge for it. Eric Bearded Pixel, he has one, and he says, "Yeah, absolutely get one." It's just another thing on the list.
I love that guy.
He's awesome. He's awesome, man. And he's one of one of the first people I kind of stuck up a friendship with in the Subaru community. The Subaru community is awesome, man. Like, I love it. Like, I had never been a part of it. I had seen some things and heard some things. Of course, all the stereotypical tropes.
Yeah.
Those are but we all, as far as my experience, we all respect each other. I think we all recognize that we all come from different places. We all might think different things. We all might have different opinions on certain things. But we all recognize when we go out on the trail or we get together for cars and coffee, we're not here to talk about that shit.
Yeah.
We enjoy our love for these cars, this community, the outdoors, whatever it is we're doing that day. Like, I love to talk politics and argue with people, it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But this community, we all love each other, man. Where there's some people, it's like some people look at me and be like, I already know about that guy. I don't want nothing to do with him. It's like,
okay.
You remember you saw the FJB badge on my car. That was a whole woo,
Bro.
People that lost their minds, but they really lost their minds.
Yeah. That was like what got me so stoked on y'all. I was like, yo, this guy's cool. He does not care. And I think the way that you handled that was very level-headed, Well, we got 2 minutes left before this thing kicks us off. Let me see here. What do you think? Is there anything you would do different or advise somebody to do different if you could go back and build your car again?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Assuming that there's no Wilderness Edition, they're stuck with what they got.
I was about to say, that was about to like, honestly, I don't think I would. Everybody will have their own individual priorities. You'll have your budget and you'll decide what's more important to you first. I had my initial big plan, and when I got the budget, I had to start taking things off of it because I wanted the bumper, I wanted the winch, this and that. So I had to personally prioritize the suspension over the bumper and winch. That was the choice for me. I can go 2-inch spacer lift, and I can get the bumper and winch in this budget, or I can get the suspension lift along with all the other things I had to get to make it happen. And then later I can get the bumper and the winch, So really it comes down to your personal preference, what's important to you and what you want out of your build immediately. My initial priority was off-road capable, and then we can start on the overlanding aspect.
I love it. Well, dang, dude. We've got 30 seconds before the Zoom kicks us off. Bro, I appreciate the F out of this. Well,
I appreciate you getting to me, man. This was awesome.
Thank you. And I'll probably follow up with an email with more questions for the article. But, dude, I'm so pumped on this. This is so sick.
Awesome. Yeah, let me know if you want some more pictures, too, because I don't have a lot of stock pictures. But if you want any more pictures, let me know.
Sick, man. Well, brother, thank you so much, man. I seriously appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Cool, man. Yeah, we'll talk soon, brother.